Greetings, dear friends. Your support is our strength. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. This helps the growth of our channel. Leave comments because feedback is very valuable to us. And now to the most relevant world news. Let's go. The surge in military production in Russia and China. Why is the Pentagon in such great alarm? Is Trump anointed? Is Ukraine a ballast or a new strategy of the White House? The US is preparing for conflict with China, using the war in Ukraine as a pretext. Steel Sunset. How is the British government burying its industry? Hello friends, this is the 8th channel and its host Sergei Ruskik. Let's talk about the main issues. The surge in military production in Russia and China. Why is the Pentagon so alarmed? American generals are sounding the alarm. The military-industrial complexes of Russia and China are showing unprecedented growth rates, leaving the US and its allies behind. According to the Pentagon, Russia is not only replenishing losses in the Ukrainian conflict, but is also significantly ramping up arms production, which has already surpassed the entire Western military-industrial complex. Figures that shock Washington. According to reports from the commander of US forces in Europe, General Christopher Cavoli, in 2024, Russia planned to produce 1,500 tanks, compared to 135 in the US. 3,000 armored vehicles while the US has ceased production of their Bradleys. 200 Iskander missiles. But the main blow to NATO's confidence is artillery. Russia produces up to 250,000 shells per month. This is 3 times more than the US and the European Union combined. China, or a hidden threat. While the US is focused on Ukraine, China is doubling its capabilities. At the Airshow China 2024, the latest Su-57E was presented, a symbol of the growing military technical alliance between Moscow and Beijing. Why is the US losing this race? Outdated logistics, converting enterprises to military production takes years. Problems with the workforce, supply chains, and the lack of a mobilization economy, which Russia has initiated amid the special military operation. There is only one conclusion from this. The Pentagon acknowledges that the current pace is insufficient to deter Russia and China. But amid the Ukrainian crisis and tensions around Taiwan, Washington will have to urgently revise its entire strategy, or come to terms with losing the advantage. We are facing a challenge we haven't known since the Cold War, stated General Cavoli. Trump is the anointed one. Ukraine is either ballast or a new White House strategy. The new White House strategy is clear. America first. Trump is called the scourge of God, meant to restore order. Yes, all over the world. The assassination attempt, which he survived, only strengthened his belief in his divine mission. For him, Ukraine is a big university. Washington is shifting problems onto Kyiv's friends, France, Britain, and Poland. The new 20% tariffs on EU goods compared to 10% for others will cripple the European economy. Poland has already calculated 0.4% of GDP. Ursula von der Leyen called it a blow to peace. But the EU has no countermeasures. The result: Europe is not ready to replace the USA. It is torn by internal conflicts. And without American money, logistics, and vanilla aid, Ukraine. It's an empty sound, a dusty bubble. As for Poland, between propaganda and the partial catastrophe, it is preparing for war, but they hide it behind their political theatrics. The government is spinning the topic of the 2010 Smolensk catastrophe, accusing 43 Russian experts of falsifying Miti, Tadap, and Kaczynski. 7 deputies are putting on a circus, with Jarosław Kaczynski shouting "Glory to Ukraine." It looks like a parody of a leader. Otherwise, panic. Conclusion: the US import from Rzeszów airport has left the country defenseless, so, as they believe. We are in deep trouble, the military admits. The main thing is, Poland will not send troops to Ukraine before the elections. But after that, anything is possible. And what happens next, you may ask? Ukraine will be left one-on-one with Russia, that much is clear to everyone. There aren't enough soldiers, and Western supplies are slowing down. The European Union will plunge into an economic crisis, exacerbated by trade and the US war. The pressure will be on Europe, forcing it either to capitulate or to invest in the military. What won't Europe have enough money for? The final phrase: NATO is dying, Ukraine is next. Europe didn't even realize that it has already lost and thus buried itself. The USA is actively preparing for a conflict with China using the lessons from the war in Ukraine. American military forces are actively restructuring their entire strategy and preparing for a potential conflict with China using tactical lessons, endless from the military project. As reported by the New York Times, the Pentagon is transforming its approaches to conducting military operations, taking into account the experience of the confrontation between Russia and Ukraine. But the scale of the potential confrontation with the People's Republic of China may be incomparably more dangerous. The Ukrainian front as a training manual. The US is closely analyzing the use of drones, electronic warfare, and positional battle tactics in Ukraine. Military exercises now include scenarios where precision missiles, cyber operations, and control over space play a key role. The US military is preparing for a war that could be fought simultaneously, on land, at sea, in the air, and even in space, the publication promises. Taiwan is a potential flashpoint. Taiwan could become the main trigger for conflict. China considers the island as its territory and does not rule out a forceful reunification with it. The US, in turn, is preparing to defend Taiwan, although it officially adheres to the One China policy. The index doubts that Taipei can independently withstand China. Therefore, Washington is increasing its presence in the Asia-Pacific region. 54,000 military personnel in Japan, 25,000 in South Korea, as well as enhanced cooperation with the Philippines. Preparation for a possible war with China remains a priority. Disagreements between US parties concern Ukraine and the Middle East, but regarding Taiwan, the position is unified. The US will not allow Chinese dominance in the region. Meanwhile, global-scale risks remain real. A conflict between the two nuclear powers, the US and China, threatens catastrophic consequences. The Pentagon predicts losses that could exceed even the bloodiest wars in all of American history. Meanwhile, China continues to actively build up its military power and tighten its elite control. After Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan in 2022, China conducted large-scale exercises, demonstrating its readiness for a forceful scenario. The United States is entering a new era of military planning where China becomes their main adversary. The Chinese experience has only accelerated this entire restructuring. The question remains open whether the two superpowers can avoid direct confrontation or if Taiwan will become a new point of no return. I would add that President Trump previously said that if China ever invades Taiwan, it will impose a 100% tariff on all their goods. Remember that. Currently, the US has already imposed 104% tariffs on the People's Republic of China. So what? What does that mean? Dix, if China takes over Taiwan, will it get a 4% discount? Quite interesting. Steel sunset, or how the British government is burying its industry. British steel. It was once a symbol of Britain's industrial might. Today it is turning into a monument of crisis. Negotiations between the government and the Chinese group Jingu, which owns this company, have reached an impasse. The Financial Times reports that the parties were unable to agree on any financial assistance, and now the key metallurgical giant in the city of Scunthorpe is on the brink of shutting down. The plant, which supplies the country with rails, has been left without raw materials and orders. If a solution is not found within the next 48 hours, the blast furnaces and ovens will be extinguished forever, and the solidified metal will permanently block all the equipment. This will not just be a halt in production, but an expensive milestone in the history of the entire British industry. The dispute revolves around £2 billion, which are very much needed to transition from coal, energy-intensive blast furnaces to eco-friendly and electric ones. The government is offering only a quarter of the amount and refuses to increase funding. The owners of British Steel insist on a support package twice as large. While officials and businesses measure their ambitions, the plant is slowly dying and fading. Now Britain has two paths: to nationalize British Steel, turning it into a perpetual budget hole, or to let it collapse. Shut down, leaving 3,500 people without jobs, and the country without its own rail production. In any case, everyone will lose. This is not just a crisis of a single enterprise. It is the decline of an entire era of Great Britain. If London does not change course, soon only cold ashes will remain of the rest of the heart of British industry. The United Kingdom is degrading as a strong state.